just a marketing car, but I have to say it is brilliant. There is one caveat though, and something that really does frustrate me. Hey guys, welcome to my first drive video on Audi's RS4 Avant competition. With the M3 competition touring just around the corner, it looks like Audi Sport wanted to sharpen up the RS4 in preparation to have something to run against that car. If you've seen my recent video on my M3 competition saloon versus an RS4 normal one, non-competition spec, you'll know already that I think the RS4 has fallen quite a long way behind the G80 M3. Therefore, when the touring arrives, it's just going to continue to drop and Audi sales will probably continue to fall. So Audi decided that it's time that they gave this car a few nice touches. I'm not sure why they didn't call it the Plus or the Performance. The fact that they've called it a competition is quite comical. I'm surprised they didn't just call it the CS and go straight for BMW's jugular. Other markets will be able to get the RS5 Coupe and Sportback in competition trim. In the UK, we'll just be able to get the RS4 in competition trim, although things might change over the next couple of months. Just 75 units of the RS4 competition are coming to the UK, and they will be exactly the same spec and colour. None of them will be Nardo Grey like this particular car. They'll all be Sebring Crystal Black and have exactly the same options. They'll retail at £84,600, which is a couple of grand less than the current flagship RS4, which is their Vorsprung model. And that's roughly what the M3 competition X-Drive Touring is going to cost. So once again, to me, showing that it is a car that Audi have released to pitch up against the M3 Touring. I can't wait to get my hands on both of those cars, hopefully early next year, and see what they're like. Maybe on track as well, because in the bump that we're given this morning, there's lots of talk about this being a track-focused car. And talking of tracks, well, I'm currently standing in the pit lane of Ascari, a circuit that I've always dreamt of driving on, and here I am today with the sun out with an RS4 competition. I'll get to take this car out on the road and out on track, and I'll be able to feed back to you what it's like. The familiar 2.9 litre V6 twin turbocharged unit is unchanged, producing 450 horsepower and 650 Nm of torque. Although it does have better acceleration figures. The standard RS4 does the 0 to 62 sprint in 4.1 seconds. This one does it in a claimed 3.9 seconds, so it's 0.2 of a second quicker. It will also go on to a limited top speed of 180 miles an hour. All of that power and torque is fed to the ground through Audi's Quattro system, although in this competition trim, they have tweaked that to send more power and torque to the rear differential. And once again, it retains the ZF 8-speed automatic gearbox, but they've tweaked the software in that as well to produce slightly faster gear changes. And I'm guessing that's where that acceleration gain has come from. But perhaps where it gets really interesting is the suspension. Audi have got rid of the standard setup and replaced it with a full RS coilover setup. They're fully adjustable, and in fact, the car out of the factory sits 10mm lower than a regular RS4, but you can adjust that to be 10mm lower than that, so 20mm lower than a regular car, although in the UK, you probably want to leave that height where it is. It has thicker anti-roll bars. It also comes with these unique lightweight 20-inch wheels that are clad with P0 Corsa tyres, so the tyre alone gives you an idea of what this car is all about, because the P0 Corsa is a semi-track tyre. It really only operates in conditions like we have today, dry and warm. So if you are getting one of these for the UK and you're thinking about using it all year round, I would strongly consider getting a secondary tyre setup, something like a Michelin Pilot Sport 4S for those wintry, damp and cooler months, because these tyres just don't switch on during that time. When we get around the back, there's been a new Audi RS Sports exhaust system fitted, which apparently makes a more intense sound. I read that in the press pack this morning. We'll see what that's like in reality. and they've removed some of the soundproofing between the cabin and the engine bay, which enhances a bit more organic engine sound, but also has reduced the car's overall weight by 8 kilos. But that makes it substantially lighter than the incoming M3 Competition X-Drive Touring. I'm not sure by how much, but I'll put that across the screen now. Right then guys, here we are, out on the Ascari circuit. We've got Frank Stippler up front in the RS4. We've got another RS4 competition in front of me and an RS5 Sportback competition behind me. We're not getting one of those in the UK, so we're just going to focus on this. First thing to talk about is these seats. RS carbon buckets, they're really good. Way better than the standard seats, and I don't know yet if they're going to be part of the UK spec, so I really hope they are, because they're brilliant. Even if they're optional, they're just fantastic. Whoa, I'm gonna have to stop you there. This is Joe from the future, about 2 hours ahead of what you're currently watching, and Joe from the future has found out that unfortunately these fantastic bucket seats are not coming to UK spec cars. So yeah, this wonderful driving position, these beautifully supportive and comfortable seats that look $1 million and really do rival the ones that are available in the M3 and the M4 and not coming to UK shores. Anyway, let's get back to Happy Joe on track, and then you can join me on this wonderful road. I don't know this circuit at all. This is my first lap round here, and already, typical Frank fashion, we are flying. Oh, what a beautiful, beautiful place. Now, what's the car feel like? Well, instantly it feels so much sharper compared to, let's call it, a regular RS4. I've never had an RS4 or RS5 out on track though, so it's hard to tell. But I can tell you, it feels very, very planted. And actually, it doesn't feel like a duck out of water out here, which I imagine the standard car would do. It feels really good. Front end is not as good as a G80 M3. It's just not, I can tell you that straight away. But the car feels really nicely balanced. Feels good on the brakes, feels good in the twisty bits, and well, that's got to be a bonus, hasn't it? Now we're going to do a quick swap. I think I'm going to sit directly behind Frank, so let's see how that goes. I've never had the urge to take an Audi out on track aside from the R8, which I have been lucky enough to do a couple of times. But I tell you what, this feels really good. And I did question Audi's logic when I saw we were coming to a track to test these cars. It really feels good. It really does. Even under hard braking, you can feel it moving around, but it all feels really together. Oh, I love following Frank. He's such a brilliant driver, and he pushes on a bit. Oh, what a circuit! This banking is nuts. That's nearly 100 miles an hour through there. Brilliant circuit, brilliant fun behind Frank, and a really, really fun and engaging car. I know I might sound shocked or surprised, but I kind of am, because, as I said, this is not the sort of car that you'd normally take on a track day. But I tell you what, if you see one on a track day, it's going to be quick. Right, it turns out we get one last lap, so let's go and have some fun. I just still can't believe that I'm in an RS4. Amazing. Okay, hats off to Audi RS. This car is way more than just a competition badge. I think they could have chosen a better name, but aside from that, way more. Wow. That is fun on track, impressive. But what most Audi RS4 or Audi RS4 competition owners want to know is what this is going to be like on the road in reality, because not many people are going to take these out on track. So let's go and see what it's like on the road. Need to get this helmet off so I can cool down a little bit. I've found myself a brilliant piece of tarmac. Now, if you've never been to the south of Spain before and you're pushing on along one of their brilliant roads, if the tarmac is a fairly light or white colour like this one is, just be cautious because grip levels are massively low. I think it must be sand or dust that sits on the top, but it can catch you out, so just beware of that. This bit of tarmac is particularly brilliant because it's not perfect like the track that we've just been on. There's lots of undulations and bumps, even some potholes and stuff, so it kind of replicates a UK road. This particular RS4 competition is identical to the one that I had on track, but the suspension, the coilovers have been set to their standard 10mm lower ride height and not the 20mm lower ride height that the car on the track had. I thought that looked particularly low, the car that we did the intro with, and that's because it is actually sitting 20mm lower. Obviously that lowers your centre of gravity, etc. You can run that on the road, but if you're from the UK, you'll probably want to stick with the standard 10mm drop as opposed to 20mm drop, just so you don't ground out on horrendous potholes, speed bumps, etc. Now, what does that coilover suspension setup feel like? Because ironically, in cars like the M2 CS, the M3 and M4 CS, and even the recent M5 CS, most people think of those as, let's call them, semi-track cars or really high performance road cars, which they are, but you'd be mistaken for thinking that the ride quality in those CS cars are stiffer and more uncomfortable than, let's say, a competition spec BMW. It's going to get really confusing because the CS is damped so well and it feels brilliant. That M5 CS, although it's fantastic on track, it's also fantastic on road because the suspension is set up brilliantly. And I can tell you straight away, right out the box, that this car feels brilliant. It feels so much better than that RS4 I had recently that was on the passive springs and suspension setup that was really niggly and really overly sprung, but yet that car, when you pushed on, it felt a bit soft. Whereas this setup, well, we know it feels brilliant out on track, and when you're on road, it feels incredible. I mean, you can feel that the suspension is expensive. It would have cost Audi a small fortune to put that suspension kit on these cars. And what makes them even better is, aside from them being typically adjustable like a coilover setup, they also have a three-way magnetic ride adjust, or let's call it adaptive suspension. So I can still cycle through my comfort and dynamic modes and get various different dampener stiffnesses, which is brilliant. So you've got that on the fly, and you've got the manual adjustment for when you go out on track, or just to fine tune your particular car. In terms of sound, well, Audi claim that you do get more interior sound. It's very hard to tell. I mean, if there is, it's subtle. It does sound slightly different. The note is a little bit different, but not massively. What you do notice is the faster steering rack is much better. And once again, when I did that twin test against my M3 recently, I did talk about the slow steering rack on the normal RS4, and in this one they've sped it up and it feels so much better. That all adds to its improved driving dynamics. I tried to time this car's 0 to 60 of my Racebox Mini, but unfortunately, as we talked about earlier, the grip levels out here just aren't good enough, and it was spinning up wheels off the line, and the best I managed was a 4-second flat, but I'm in no doubt that it would duck below 3.5 seconds on the right surface, because again, that regular RS4 that I had a couple of weeks ago managed to do it in, I think it was a GPS 3.35 seconds. To be fair, that car somehow felt a little bit punchier than this one. It's definitely the fastest RS4 in a straight line that I've ever driven, and I think a lot of that has to do with that particular press car had nearly 8,000 miles on it. Obviously press car miles as well, so reasonable hard ones. And most press cars we get our hands on, like this one, this has done 2,000 Ks, so that hasn't really been run in yet. So maybe that's why that car was so quick, because it definitely felt a little bit punchier than this car. Although once again, we're in different climates, it's a lot hotter out here, and the roads are a lot more open than the confined ones that I had in the UK when I tested that car. I need to come up with some kind of conclusion, and I need to get this car back to base. Today has been a brilliant day, but it's been very rushed, and I started at 4 AM in a hotel reception at Luton Airport, so I'm feeling exhausted. But thankfully, the excitement of this car has given me lots of energy. And also, I'm really pleased that this car has lived above my expectations. It's been better than I ever thought it would be. We get the press packs and spec sheets of these cars sort of 24 hours or 48 hours before we come out on these trips, and sometimes you read through them and you just think, they put coarser tyres on there, okay, you're going to get a bit more grip, and they've done this and that, they haven't played with the engine. Is it going to be any good? You know, like, is it just a marketing car? But I have to say, it is brilliant. There is one caveat though, and something that really does frustrate me, and something that would definitely stop me buying one of these over an incoming M3 Touring, and that is the fact that in the UK at least, you can't get these seats. The seats in my M3 are a massive part of that car. Also, the G-Series platform in the BMW the H point is a lot lower to start with, so even the regular M Sport seats sit a lot lower than the regular RS seats that come in the RS4. And it's not going to affect everyone, but the lankier frames or people that like to sit nice and low, well, these seats do. They sit a good 2 or 3 inches lower than the regular RS seats that are in here. They also grip you better, they look better, they just make this car and this cabin feel really expensive. So I'm massively disappointed, as you can tell, by the fact that this car doesn't come with these seats or isn't available with these seats in the UK. I hope something changes between now and when the embargo lifts, but I don't think it is going to. Has it ruined this car? Not at all. It's better pretty much everywhere. You would be crazy to buy a Vorsprung model over one of these. I think the only reason you would is probably because of the pan roof, which does make sense if you're going to use it as a family car and you're going to have passengers in the back a lot, because it is a little bit dark and gloomy back there. But otherwise, forget the Vorsprung model. If you don't want the roof, get this. It is more comfortable, the ride quality is amazing, and the performance it offers when you want it is just unreal. We know the RS4 is fast in a straight line, it always has been, but now it has the handling to match. It slows down, it turns, it's just the full package at last, you know? What, 5 years into its life cycle, and they've really made this an exciting and interesting car. It's always been an appealing package. It's a very pretty car. It's ultimately pretty fast, but also ultimately has been a little bit numb compared to, let's say, the M3. But this one, they've really extracted everything out of it. And yeah, I've really enjoyed my time with it. Also, the gear shifts are definitely quicker. They did say it was quicker in the briefing, but yeah, especially the upshifts. Upshifts are savage. I should have talked about that on the track, I suppose, but I had so much to think about. When you're thrown in a car, a new car that you haven't driven before, on a track that you've never been around before, trust me, it's a lot to take in, especially when the cameras are rolling. Oh, what a piece of road. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it turned out okay. Please leave any comments, etc. below, and give us a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, and make sure you're subscribed for more content coming very soon. Until then, take it easy, and I'll see you soon. Cheers. I forgot to mention, it now has a 5,000 RPM soft limiter, so that should make Matt Watson happy. Thing is, with this car, you just get the sense that you're the fastest thing on the road. I mean, there's literally nothing else out there that's going to touch you. There really isn't. I mean, it's just ballistically fast. Unreal. Oh, unless there's a Rob Gill around in another RS4 competition.